Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you. My name's Simon Howard, and this is Event Tech Live 2021, day number 5. If you are rejoining us, a very warm welcome back to you. If you're joining us for the first time, though, where have you been? So much you've missed out under, but don't worry, because we've got an action-packed day today to wrap up the week. Of course, this has been a hybrid event all week. We've had 2 live days, yesterday and the day before, but everything that we've streamed out will be available on catch up, so you can catch up in the next few days. But what have we got coming up for you this week? Much more content, lots more presentations, amazing presenters, but also we've got a number of speed networking sessions and round table sessions. Actually, at 10 o'clock, kicking off right now, we have got a round table discussion on what will hybrid events look like in the future. So if you want to know more about that, get involved in that round table discussion. Make sure you go and get involved. Let's just talk about the show. Were you there yesterday, or did you watch it all? How was it for you? Did you love it? Let us know in the chat just to the right of this video window. We want to hear from you guys. What did you think of it? How was it for you? We have got highlights reel. We'll show you a little bit later on to show you what you did miss out on if you didn't make it to the show. One thing that came out of it for me, other than meeting some amazing people and catching up with a lot of people there as well, was collaboration and how that's going to be the future of the industry, which brings us right on to our first presentation this morning. Stop, collaborate and listen. So we've got 3 gentlemen who are going to have a discussion around this topic. We're going to bring them on now, and we've got Mr. Rich Belcher from First Media who's going to chair the discussion. So Rich, good morning, and it's over to you, sir.
Thanks, Simon. Good morning to you, and good morning to everyone watching. I think I owe an apology to everybody that has been looking at the agenda, and every time they've seen it has got vanilla ice in their head. Very sorry about that. It seemed funny at the time when we wrote it, but yeah. So I'm joined by Ed and Will, and we are going to be talking about collaboration, and particularly how the last 18 months has spearheaded that. And I think for me in particular, one of the big things that I took away from the 2 live days was how much conversation and discussion there were between, well, particularly the exhibitors in the space, but also people walking around just thinking, oh, you could maybe supplement my business by what you guys do, and things like that. And I think that tees up really nicely, as if we knew that was what was going to happen at Event Tech live days, and so here we are to discuss all things collaboration and partnerships. So I think we've all seen that there's a lot more tech involved in the virtual world than there was pre-pandemic, and so the main reason for inviting Ed from PB, Production Bureau, PB, I'm going to call you PB the whole time, Ed, I hope that's okay, and Will from Crowdcoms, is because we have some shared customers, and but for each of our businesses, the primary goal is to make better events for our customers. So perhaps Ed, I'll start with you. Let's just, for those people that have been in some sort of blind spot and have never heard of Production Bureau, tell us about PB and what you guys do.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. So I am Ed Snowling. I'm Joint Managing Director at Production Bureau, or PB, as we're more widely known. We started life back in 1989, predominantly as a live events agency. But over the years, we've built up to the full-service creative agency that we are today. And we now help our clients deliver, to connect, communicate, through everything from live events still, but experiential, exhibitions, installations, film, motion, graphic design and print. And then more recently, of course, helping our clients through virtual and hybrid solutions. So that's us.
Great, thanks, Ed. So Will, over to you. What's Crowdcoms?
So we actually just celebrated our 10th birthday. So we're Crowdcoms is an event platform. We started out as the kind of the app that was in your pocket, if you like, when you attended physical events. And obviously we've pivoted quite hard in the last couple of years to become a virtual live streaming platform. We work with clients all over the world. We work with huge, clients that are huge down to small ones, and really the power in the CrowdComms platform is really its customization and the kind of training and support that we allow people to when they're using our platform. So we're the event technology behind everything, if you like.
Great. Okay, cool. So I think it would be remiss of me not to introduce First Sight Media for those of you that don't know who we are. So we are production and streaming specialists. You will know us because our brand is all over Event Tech Live because we have been filming and streaming ETL for the last 7 years, I think. So it's actually my team that is running from our offices here in Oxfordshire. It's my team that are running the virtual side of this. And if you've watched any of the content through Grip, that's come from us at First Sight Media. So we specialise in that, and you may see shamelessly over my right hand shoulder the Silver Award from Wednesday night as well. So okay, so let's dig in then, chaps, shall we, and talk. So I think I think the reason that makes the three of us work together so well is that we kind of provide complementary solutions. So there's a little overlap between what each of us do, and we kind of do offer similar services. But I think if you were to headline what we specialize in, I think they are, as I described, complementary services. So Ed, how did the relationships form with First Sight and CrowdComms in your case, and how did you lean on us as specialists to help you accelerate?
Yeah, so start out with you guys, Rich, and First Sight Media. So that relationship goes back some 10 years, I believe now. We found ourselves thrust together slightly we had shared clients who clearly saw in us both something very similar, a really similar commitment, passion for delivering to those customers' needs. Going back 10 years ago, then we had no streaming capability, no digital capability, and we were absolutely reliant on a handful of specialist providers. And so that relationship started back then 10 years ago, and then we have remained very reliant on the services of guys like you certainly through to pandemic, where obviously our story changes a little bit. Now with Will and CrowdComms, our relationship started about 3-4 years ago, and I think this is back at the time when we were doing a lot of native apps on site at live events, but Will and the team then introduced us to web apps. Who would have thought back then how important that introduction would have been? So that's essentially how we got to be working together initially.
And Will, the business model for CrowdComms is maybe slightly different to both First Sights and PBs. So how did you find yourselves? I mean, collaboration and working together is something that you don't just do with us, although of course we're your favourites. Talk to me about how it works at CrowdComms.
Yeah, well, it's a really core principle of what we do at CrowdComms. So we obviously, so my stock and trade is I'm a product designer or UX designer. And you can't really do that without talking to the end audience. And our end audience as a platform provider is the organizer, but also the end delegate as well. So we've always looked to talk to companies that use our products to improve them, to get early feedback, to validate our own thinking, validate our ideas, also, gain inspiration and things like that for, if an event organizer, if First Sight Media or Production Bureau needs something, we want that door to be open for them to be able to, you guys to be able to talk to us. And I know we talk regularly anyway. Our teams do, and we do, and it's a really important part of what we do. We couldn't really do what we do without it. Lots of companies talk about user-centered design and making sure that what they're producing is tested and fit for purpose. We really try and live that by having those conversations, making sure that we've got, for example, we've got a Jura board in-house that clients can use to suggest features that they want. We regularly have roadmap meetings to present what we've got in the pipeline, what we're working on, when it will be live, so you guys can plan what you're doing, you can influence what we're doing. That is an absolutely fundamental principle of how crowd comms work, and it wouldn't work any other way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what's slightly different with FSM and PB is certainly for us. We have a modest amount of some of the solutions that Ed and PB provide. We've got a little bit of staging, we've got some audio stuff, but we don't nearly have it the scale. And I think the key for me, and the reason that collaboration was important, I think we'll end up talking about pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. So if we start with pre-pandemic for now, I think if we I think the main fundamentals for me was scalability at that point, and we could build websites, and we could build landing pages and basic web stuff. But I think it's when you were looking to scale, it's where you drew from someone else, and I think that was probably the big difference between. For me, and I think the experience of most, if I may, is pre-pandemic. It was when we needed to scale, we drew on a specialist, or when we needed something specific that we didn't have, we drew from a specialist. A portal from Crowdcoms, or a full set and stage design from PB. That's kind of how First Media worked in that space. So. I think for those of you watching, I think we may well end up dwelling on this particular topic for a while. So please do stand by. But I don't think we can talk about any of this without talking about the impact of the pandemic, both on our audience as event organisers, but as us as businesses, and how it's impacted us. So, Will, I'll start with you, if I might. Talk to me about how you guys had to adapt in March and April of last year.
Well, we were in a fairly fortunate position that in 2019, late 2019, we'd actually been working on a kind of on-demand video service, a bit, to be able to watch videos but still navigate around the platform, as in and out of agendas and things like that. So we started doing some UI and UX work. Now, obviously, we couldn't predict what was going to happen, and when it hit, it obviously hit hard. We didn't really know if there was going to be much of an industry left. So we pivoted very, very quickly, and I guess we had a little bit of a head start. We had an event platform anyway, so we were definitely way ahead of a lot of people. Adding the live streaming capabilities into that, like I said, we'd kind of started work on some video services anyway in 2019, and we were able to get up and running very quickly. Now, the hard bit when you do that is the stability and the scalability, like you mentioned. So we've done, we worked quickly, and we gained, we collaborated with a few different companies to make sure that we had as stable a service as possible. So and the work we've done over the last year with you guys, particularly Production Bureau on security, has really meant we could push things forward. So we had, we did furlough people. We had to. But then we quite quickly had to bring people back because, as you guys know, it quite quickly snowballed into virtual events needed a lot of work, and a lot was happening, and people wanted to get back to it. So we were able to lean on experts all over the place, not just on our own. So some of those new recruits were event organizers who were recommended to us, for example, by other people, and they've really added wonderful things to our company that would have had to leave the industry altogether, or they would have been completely out of a job. So they came over and joined us. We started running virtual events, it was really, really successful. And then obviously we, stabilized and made sure we had all the security there to cope with huge, huge audiences that were doing it, hundreds of thousands. It's been draining. And I think without leaning on other people and other experts, it would have been really, really hard to get through it. And I think, from my point of view, those relationships are very, very long lasting because they have come from that adversity of we all have to work together to kind of maintain an industry, have still be able to run events at the end of this. And it means they are long lasting, proper, not just professional relationships, but personal ones as well.
Yeah, great. Yeah, here. So, Ed, over to you. How did it go for you guys in sort of March, April last year?
Well, cast my mind back. I can start a little bit before that because 2019 for PB was our best year ever, absolute record year. And we were looking forward to some really fantastic things going into 2020. And then it all came crashing down. And I don't mind sharing with you that we lost in the space of a couple of weeks, around about £3.5 million worth of work that fell off our books. It was the worst of times. And we probably had a spell of a few weeks where we sat in stunned silence trying to work out what we were going to do. But then, like many other agencies out there and many of our clients, we realized that we had to fast forward our whole digital agenda. We had to build our own streaming and digital capability in-house really very quickly. Now, a rather wise friend and colleague of mine, I think, described the situation quite eloquently. In that at that time, as we were working out what was going on in the industry, we realized that we were in a rather large storm, a storm that was going to last for some considerable time. We found ourselves in our own little PB boat. But as we looked out there across those very stormy seas, we could see that everybody else was in a very similar situation, all in their own similar little boats. And the way out of it, one of the ways out of it for us, was to bring some of those boats a little bit closer. And so the likes of Crowdcom's, firstsight.media, and a handful of other key suppliers we have brought close to us in order to help us get through what was a very, very difficult time. We had a small but perfectly formed digital team. Those guys, digital and IT guys, did an absolutely incredible job of quickly building our awareness of virtual platforms. They already had that connection with Crowdcoms, but then had to very quickly cement that relationship further. At the same time, we were doing everything that we could in order to try and recruit new digital talent. But of course, we're doing it at a time when everyone in the industry was doing exactly the same thing. And that's, as you can appreciate, it was not a very easy task. That connection with Crowdcoms meant that our team of 15 was exponentially larger. As Will alluded to, then the relationship with us has been key because we have been able to work with those guys hand in hand from day one. Unlike other providers where we have had a little bit of experience of working with them, where you possibly get a front lead person, a salesperson, with Will and the guys, we have access to the entire team. We're chatting with programmers and developers. One of my colleagues described it as lifting the hood on the product, and with Crowdcoms, the guys are very happy to lift the hood and for us to have a really good look around from the outset. And that obviously is worth its weight in gold when it comes to the hoops that we have to jump through when it comes to procurement processes and lots of the governance processes that we have to continue to go through. With Rich, you guys, First Media, I guess, some real honesty here. The fact that we had to develop our own in-house streaming capability. There was no other option for us unless we were prepared to lose more people from our business, which we absolutely didn't want to do. Now, Rich rather than seeing a risk there, actually turned fully into that challenge. You were very happy to come along to help us, to give us the tools and the initial training in order to build our own vMix and streaming capability. We owe a huge debt of gratitude to you for that, and I think it speaks volumes about the relationship that we have, about First Sight Media. But also, I think it's a really good indication of something that we have all talked about, and that's when one of us wins, we all win.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, I remember those dark days, being in that boat alongside you very well. Actually, it was different but similar for First Sight. Obviously, more like Crowdcoms, we kind of were in the right space to I hate the word pivot, but to do that, because as a streaming company, that's what we specialize in, streaming of events. It kind of was a natural evolution in any case to go into the virtual space. I mean, we've been running hybrid events together with PB for all of those 10 years, but it was generally a physical with a bolt-on of virtual and not the other way around. And so I will continue Ed's honesty and tell you that I furloughed everyone, like everyone. I don't have the benefit of a joint managing director as Ed does in Sal, but it was a very lonely few weeks for me. And actually, the relationship that I had with PB at the time, I think Sal rang me to ask about a joint client that we were trying to create a solution for, and actually said, "How's it going, Rich?" And it was really nice to know that it wasn't just me on my own; that everyone was in the same boat. And I think hopefully all of our audience can appreciate that. I think we all felt in the same way. But I think what became, well, I think actually what was really useful for me, and I think echoing what you guys have both said, was that we didn't have all the answers at that point, and no one did. And what was really useful was to hear what your customers were saying, Ed, and Will's customers were saying, so that we could kind of navigate our way through this storm. I'm going to keep the analogy, Ed. I hope that's okay. So we could navigate through it together and come out the other side with what our customers were looking for. I started this discussion by saying that we all have the same end goal, and that's always been our customers' events, and that was still the same thing. And the reason, and it should be noted that I wouldn't go and teach any other agency how to essentially do what we do, but it became really clear that there was plenty of work out there for everybody, and so much so that we couldn't scale in the same way that Ed, you were saying that it was difficult to recruit people. We've gone from 11 pre-pandemic to, our 19th starts a week on Monday. We've been doing all sorts of events, from EventTech Live to webinars together with PB and Crowdcoms, and then conferences and all that kind of stuff. And we wouldn't have been able to do that without learning from each other. I genuinely believe that. And there's I don't know if either of you guys are on it, but there's a WhatsApp group called the EventTech Founders Forum, which I know that a lot of the audience will be a part of. And Oliver Rowe from Venue IQ was saying yesterday on the bonus stage that it's a very strange place, because normally you wouldn't collaborate with competitors, but there is a lot of discussion on that chat, and I'm not that active, but I read every single one, and I'm always really interested in what other people are saying, and they're genuinely saying, "Oh, does anyone know?" And it's basic things from, does anybody know a good, this in London, a provider of that in Helsinki or whatever. But it's also about, oh, has anybody learned about this yet? Can anybody point me in the direction of that kind of thing? And I think that really sums up the event industry at the moment, and certainly the tech behind it, is that everyone is learning from each other in order to deliver for their customers and driving that forward. And I think you know, to give a spoiler of what the summary of the end of this talk is going to be, I think that's what I think that's the key, isn't it? And that's what and it's not just the three of us that are working together. Everybody is doing it, and certainly the last 2 days have shown us that. And so I think for us in particular, it's helped us. The relationships that we have has helped us escalate our clients' events. So let's talk about the positives now. Let's try and see whether when we got towards the end. I'm not sure we're quite at the end of the storm yet, Ed, but it's definitely, the eye of it is behind us for sure. I hope. So let's talk about let's try not to be too shameless in talking about the awesome solutions that the three of us have now put together to escalate our clients' events. So a simple question. I'll start with you, Will. How has the closer relationships created better events for our customers?
Well, I actually think it kind of leads off from what you were just saying there. The reason, for me, the reason that people want to work together to kind of, produce fantastic virtual events and now hybrid events is because we all love events. Like, fundamentally, we all want to be in this industry. We all want to be producing fantastic events. Now, that means, obviously, we're all learning together. We're all trying to create technology together that facilitates us doing that. And it drives everything forward. From a technology provider's point of view, it pushes us to develop quickly, and it pushes us to develop, try and innovate as much as we can. That innovation, it comes internally. We want to do the best products we can. We've got lots of ideas ourselves, but we're not on the ground listening to the delegates saying, oh, it would be great if we did this, or wouldn't it be fantastic if this could happen, or I miss being able to do this, that, and the other. And it's that, we were comfortable. We were comfortable in our environment in 2019. We kind of knew what worked. We kind of knew we could innovate a little bit here and there, and we were trying to, do fantastic physical experiences. And I think now we're at the point now where we can really start to excite people, in a hybrid and virtual sense as well. And I think that will it will push forwards. And, to touch on the fact that we are coming out of the storm into the other side, it's, those choices now exist for people, whether they want to attend virtually or they want to go and have the physical experience. It's making sure that both are incredible. We will want to make both as good as possible. So I think that's the really exciting bit for me is what happens in that space to really push and escalate those events for clients in the next 2 to 5 years.
Yeah, for sure. And yes, my receding hairline will tell you that my comfort zone is way back over there somewhere. I don't remember the last time I was in my comfort zone. And actually, I think that is what makes it a really exciting time for event tech and events generally. I think. Yeah, I've been really excited too about the blend of stuff, and actually First Light Media has become a much better company by collaborating with the likes of you guys. For those of you that saw my talk yesterday, looking at the results of the first hybrid British Equine Veterinary Association Congress. Check it out midday yesterday if you missed it. We talked about how using the CrowdComms solution meant that we could provide a one-stop shop for everything. The delegates in the space at the ICC in Birmingham and those watching online were using the same platform because we registered the CrowdComms app in iOS and Google Play, so that could be downloaded. So they were all engaging in the same way. So they were engaging with each other, and that made for a better event. And the feedback that we've had from it has been amazing. So Ed, same question to you. How has closer relationships created better events for your customers?
Yeah, I'm probably going to focus on a tangible example with Will and Crowdcoms, and I believe Will, you referenced it earlier, in terms of the roadmap, your development roadmap. Um, the fact that you guys have allowed us to work so closely with you, and there are weekly calls now going on between your team, our IT and digital team, and we get full access to exactly where you're heading with the product. Not only that, we are actively inputting into that process. So Will mentioned to me recently that he likes working with us because we push you. The reality is it's our clients pushing us, and then in turn we're pushing you quite hard. And you guys are responding to that. So our customers' needs, our needs, that drive, that desire to continue to improve the product, to look for the next thing, to not sit on your laurels. That collaboration, that partnership, has allowed us to do that. So yeah, that would be the tangible example that I would share.
Yeah, great, and it's a good one, and I think yeah, it's just the really simple things about how three companies all reaching out to the events world has got to be better than one and being siloed in that, and I think that's definitely what we've seen, and not just with projects we work on together, but I know, Ed, we joke about the FSMPB hotline, which is your senior producer Hannah Harvey predominantly, where she'll often just ring and say, Rich, we're thinking about trying this. What do you think? And I'll just get a bit of paper out, and you go, well, why don't you connect this to that, and this to that, and this to the other? And and she'll go, oh yeah, that makes sense, and that's the end of that. And then we don't necessarily work on that project with you, but and likewise, FSM is much better because I can pick up the phone to Hannah and say, we're trying to do this. What have you done? Did you and they'll say, oh well, we did one with a virtual DJ, and I'll say that sounds like a terrible idea, and then we'll do it anyway, and it will be brilliant. And it's just part of how it works, isn't it? And it's this genuine partnership rather than maybe the word collaboration. It's mainly partnership, perhaps, that is what's doing it. Because I know that my team have actually been to one of PB's new amazing warehouses to see how you've set it up, so that when we were redoing our store, we could learn from your examples. And I know that Tom Hitch, who's our account manager at Crowdcoms, hey Tom, if you're watching, he is always happy to share good bars that I should go to in Oxford or Whitney, which is fantastic for not just our customers but also our social lives, which is great. I digress. So I think the summary for me is it started as relationships from scale, but it's led to relationships that are now just working towards better events and better businesses for each of us. And that's really corny and really cliche, and I'm sure if I were to hand over to one of my colleagues on the panel, they would say it in a much more pithy way, but I hope that our audience know what I'm trying to say. And how it's really working to make it better for you as event organisers, and that's why. We don't just collaborate with the three people on here, and I know that there are other providers and stuff that we work with closely as well, and that's all fantastic. Anything to add on either of those two things? Ed first. Anything to add?
The only thing that just jumped out there, that's a Hannah reference that you reminded me of. A piece of advice you gave us some 6.5 years ago, I believe it was, and we were struggling on an event. I believe we were connecting to the CEO of a rather large organization via Skype, and it failed with seconds to go. And quick phone call to Rich, firstsight.media, to help in that moment, an event that you were not associated with anyway. And you put forward a lesser known solution at the time called Zoom. Who would have known that that piece of advice also would hold us in such good stead with where we are today?
Yes, I remember that day very well. Will, anything to add on the benefits of escalating our clients' events and the partnership?
Well, I mean, just to touch on the kind of personal relationship bit again. Really, to be honest, it's from over the last 2 years that Tom suggesting pubs to go to in Oxford and Whitney, and just having WhatsApp groups that it's not, we're not talking about official sort of meetings and collaboration in a sort of organized, fun sort of way. We're talking about genuine personal relationships where we're just helping each other out as friends who do the same job rather than colleagues, and I think that's an important distinction to make between the two.
Yeah, and it's funny actually, Will, because I would say that's how we've worked with our customers for the last 10, 15 years that I've been at First Sight. And I know that that's exactly how both PB and Crowdcoms deal with their customers. And I think maybe we've just switched that relationship to be with our suppliers, if indeed that's what you may have been 10 years ago, to apply that same mentality, which is certainly interesting. So yeah, okay. So we are running short on time. So let's. I'm gonna ask you for a quick crystal ball here, and what do you think the future of such collaborations are going to be, and how do you see us driving each other forward in the future? Will first.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I would say this next couple of years is going to be super interesting. We don't really know how people are going to react off the bat when they have a truly hybrid solution to choose from. Because we're still in that storm, because we're still in those woods, to kind of mix my metaphors and use two different analogies. We're seeing slightly lower footfall at the moment, but that's because we are still in the middle of it. Now, when there is more confidence over the next couple of years, and that's kind of the P word is in our rearview mirror. It will be really interesting to see how people want to attend events. Whether they want to go down the virtual route, whether they're happy attending that, but they want one or two really big events to attend a year. We're talking kind of internal conferences and stuff there. Whether they want to do their continuous professional development from home and kind of not have to travel around so much, and just making those hybrid solutions better. Now, I think that's the way we get there, the way we give that choice to users properly so they can make an informed decision, is to keep pushing each other and keep working together. So my thing would always be, if you need something, ask. And if you don't have anyone to ask, find someone, because there will be someone out there who wants to listen, whether you think that's potentially a competitor who you don't want to ask, or whether it's a technology provider who, like us, who you don't think that those relationships exist out there. They do. And if you are coming up against a brick wall, then find a company who you can work with, who you can actually talk to and listen, and kind of you listen to each other. So they would be my bits.
Yeah, great advice, Will. Great advice. Ed, your crystal ball?
Yeah, succinct thoughts on that would be, our clients are always going to want more. So already we're seeing many of our clients who have committed to staying within a virtual space, regardless of whether there's more appetite to go fully back to live. And that means that we're constantly going to have to be pushing the boundaries of what's possible. This goes back to what I said about the discussions that we're having with Will and the team in terms of that roadmap. But whether we're back to live, we're in hybrid, there's always going to be that need to continue to push our offering for the customer. And that's where the need for those relationships and to be able to partner with those specialists is going to be so important. It is easier, and as we said before, one of us wins, we all win. So I see no sign of that changing.
100%. Yeah, I'm gonna. Actually, one of the things that on the bonus stage that I heard was from Vanessa at Glisser, and she said, which I think is a really astute point, is that I think we'll stop calling it hybrid quite soon, and it will just be an event, and there will be a digital or virtual element to events moving forward. And I think if we start to see, if we think about that, that means that exactly what Will and Ed have said is that our clients are going to continue to want more and different and unique, and they're going to want to be engaged with better, and they're going to want to dial it up. They're going to want to try the virtual DJs and the virtual magicians and all this kind of stuff. And as long as I think we work closely and learn from each other and how that's working, I think we're in really good shape to see that drive continue and for it to be super exciting. I'm excited by it. I hope my hairline doesn't get too much worse, but that's what I'm thinking. So should we welcome back Simon at that? I think that wraps us up pretty nicely. Simon, I hope we made some sense to someone at least.
Well, one person definitely. Michael Lockett has said, this has been an amazing session on collaboration. Thank you. And I'm sure that is echoed the response from everybody else watching. I've really enjoyed it, actually. It's been really interesting. Obviously, spending the last 2 days in London with you, Rich, going around, meeting a lot of the exhibitors there. Collaboration is really key. I've been making notes while you guys have been talking. Just in my experience of exhibitions, you go there, you see your competitors, and often it's like they've got 6 inches more floor space than me. Don't talk to them; they're the enemy. And the feeling I got from Event Tech Live this week was almost like a warm, fuzzy feeling of just that integration. That you like all the different exhibitors talking to each other, like you say, what have you been doing? What have you been successful with? How can you help my clients out? And I think as an industry, and in terms of actually delighting our clients and meeting their needs, I think as an industry we're going to come back stronger, we're going to come back better, and from, as I say, an event organizer's point of view, I just see that as a positive for the future. So like yourselves, I'm really excited to see how we can move forward. So that does wrap up your session. Thank you very much to Rich for hosting that one. Very nicely done. And again, thank you to Ed and Will for your comments. So thank you very much, gents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. So that was your first session of day number 5 Event Tech Live 2021. Again, keep those comments coming in. We've got a couple more from Tabs in there. Wonderful, positive story of collaboration, partnership. Thank you and congratulations, guys. And Lawrence as well. Great session. Thank you very much. Loving the interaction. Keep those comments coming in all day. If you do have any questions from any of our sessions, this is your chance to get the most out of Event Tech Live, even if you're joining us from all over the globe. Now, as I said, we have spent the last 2 days down in London, and just in case you weren't able to join us, this is what you missed.